The stars had once been silent. Empty. Waiting. For centuries, humanity believed they were latecomers to the galactic stage, fragile, war-torn, barely holding their homeworld together. Yet in just 300 years, they had spread like fire across the void. And now, an empire stretched from Sol to the far edges of Orion's arm. From the bridge of the Sovereign's Reach, the Imperial flagship, Admiral Aiden Vale watched the sweep of starlight across the viewport. Below him, the massive warship's hull glowed faintly with the white-blue sheen of its void shields, a gentle reminder that it could shrug off a meteor strike without flinching. Its drives hummed like a sleeping beast, ready to leap at a moment's command. Status? Vale's voice cut through the quiet, crisp but calm. Outer colonies are stable, replied Commander Lyra Sorn, his first officer. Trade fleets reporting minimal piracy. Border patrols detected no foreign incursions for the last 6 cycles. Vale nodded absently. That should have reassured him. And yet, something gnawed at the back of his mind. Humanity had clawed its way into space through sheer willpower and ingenuity, yes, but that had never gone unnoticed. For every barren system they claimed, for every world they terraformed, someone, somewhere was watching. The galaxy had been far from empty. Its great powers had laughed when humanity first launched their clumsy colony ships. They were not laughing now. The human empire had done the impossible, united the fractured nations of Earth under one banner, built fleets of ships that rivaled the ancient powers, and carved out territories previously thought too dangerous to tame. Humanity was no longer just a rising power, they were a dominant one. And dominance bred resentment. Vale's thoughts were interrupted by a transmission alert. Priority signal from the frontier, the comms officer said. His tone was tight, almost cautious. Vale's jaw set. Put it through. The main display lit up. A battered, smoke-filled command deck appeared, one of their forward listening stations. Sparks rained from a severed conduit, and the officer in frame was shouting over blaring alarms. To Central Command. This is Frontier Post Helios 3. We are under attack. Repeat, under attack. Unknown vessels, fast, coordinated, our defenses are. The transmission cut out in a burst of static. The bridge fell silent. Vale felt the temperature in the room drop. Lyra's fingers hovered over her console. Playback, confirms hostile contact, Admiral. No transponder codes match any known neighbor species. Unknown vessels. That was impossible. Humanity had charted this region for decades. The nearest alien polity lay hundreds of light-years away. Whoever these attackers were, they had struck from deep space without warning, bypassing detection nets designed to catch even cloaked ships. Vale turned to face the bridge crew. His voice was ice. Sound fleet alert. Mobilize the vanguard. I want every patrol group on full combat readiness and every colony in the frontier systems under shelter protocols. Effective immediately, we are at war. Hours later, the Sovereign's Reach thundered out of orbit, leading a flotilla of capital ships into the void. From space, the Imperial fleet was a sight to inspire awe, or terror. Sleek spearhead-shaped cruisers and destroyers flanked the Titanic dreadnought, their drives leaving trails of light like comet tails. Vale stood at the forward observation deck, his reflection dimly visible against the stars. Unknown enemy, Lyra said quietly, joining him. Unprovoked strike. No demands, no warning. Why now? Vale's answer was grim. Because we built an empire, Commander. And someone out there has decided we don't deserve to keep it. The first battle came 3 days later. Helios 3's orbit was littered with wreckage by the time Vale's fleet arrived. The listening station was gone, only a field of twisted metal remained. But the enemy was still there. They were like nothing humanity had ever faced. Alien ships swarmed through the system in perfect, predatory coordination, sleek, angular craft bristling with weaponry, their hulls shimmering with a chameleon-like distortion that made them hard to track. When Vale's sensors locked on, the enemy broke formation and charged. "They're not retreating," Lyra murmured, almost in disbelief. "They're hunting," Vale corrected. The battle exploded across the system. Human cruisers fired first, lances of plasma slicing through the void. Explosions bloomed like miniature suns as the first wave of attackers were torn apart, but more kept coming. The enemy ships darted and weaved with impossible precision, slipping through kill zones and striking at the flanks. Vale gripped the command rail, voice cutting through the chaos. "Reposition the flanking groups. Overload forward shields and drive straight through them. We break their formation now, or we lose the system." The Sovereign's Reach surged forward, its spinal cannon charging with a low, resonant hum that made the deck plates vibrate. Then it fired. A column of light brighter than a star lanced out, slicing an enemy capital ship clean in two. Cheers erupted across the bridge, short-lived, because the remaining aliens did not scatter. They pressed harder, striking like a cornered predator. Minutes stretched into hours. The battle became a brutal slugging match, human steel and alien fury clashing again and again until finally, the last enemy ship went silent, breaking apart under a hail of torpedoes. The system was theirs again. But the cost was written in the debris field. Dozens of human ships lay broken, their crews lost. Helios 3 was gone. The frontier lay exposed. Vale stared at the tactical display, jaw tight. "This was not a raid," he said at last. His voice was quiet, but every officer heard him. "This was an opening move." Lyra turned to him, pale. "You think there will be more?" Vale didn't look at her. He kept his eyes on the stars, his thoughts a storm. "They've declared war," he said. "And they think they can wipe us out before we strike back." His hand tightened on the railing, knuckles white. "Let's show them how wrong they are." 3 weeks after the Battle of Helios 3, the human empire no longer spoke of peace. The news feeds across every colony, every orbital habitat, every deep space station blazed with one message: war had come. The Empire's Senate suspended debate and passed the war mandate with overwhelming majority. Civilian industry was conscripted overnight, and the shipyards of Mars, Titan, and the Belt thundered to life, their assembly lines running without pause. In orbit above Luna, the war machine woke from its slumber. Massive construction frames lit up against the black of space, cranes swinging into position, ship hulls glowing as fusion welders stitched together steel and composite armor. New battleships rolled off the line in weeks instead of months. Drones swarmed like bees, fitting weapons and drives onto fresh hulls. Humanity was no longer preparing for war. It was building for total annihilation. Admiral Vale stood in the Strategy Hall of High Command, the great chamber suspended in zero gravity at the heart of the Imperial Fleet's command citadel. A holographic projection of known space floated before him, every star, every colony, every jump route. And now, a spreading line of red markers where the Forigners had struck again. Helios 3 had been only the beginning. 3 more frontier stations had gone dark. Entire convoys had vanished in the black. Each time the enemy struck, they left no survivors. Around the table, the Empire's highest-ranking officers and ministers argued. "They're probing our defenses," said Grand Marshal Corinne, his voice hard. "Trying to see how far we'll bend before we break. If we stay on the defensive, they'll bleed us dry, system by system. And if we strike back blindly, we risk walking into a trap," countered Minister Yana Droz, Chief of Intelligence. "We know almost nothing about them. Not their language, not their biology, not their numbers. This could be a species-wide campaign, or just one warlord's crusade." Vale's voice cut through the tension. "We can't afford paralysis. If we wait until we know everything, there will be nothing left to defend." The room went quiet. "Then what do you propose?" Corinne asked. Vale gestured to the map. The red markers flared, then shifted, forming a projected line of advance based on enemy strike patterns. They're not random, Vale said. They're following the jump lanes inward. If we predict their next strike, we can ambush them. But we'll need more than just ships, we need a message. The first decisive victory of this war must break them. Preparations began immediately. On the Sovereign's Reach, Vale oversaw the mobilization personally. Every corridor hummed with activity. Marines drilled for boarding actions. Technicians loaded missile racks with fresh warheads. Strike craft were fueled and armed, their pilots reviewing combat telemetry from Helios 3 to study the enemy's movements frame by frame. In the hangar bay, Vale found Commander Lyra waiting, helmet tucked under her arm. "You're leading the forward strike wing?" he asked. Lyra gave a tight nod. "I won't sit behind a console when my pilots are flying into hell. Besides," her expression softened, "just a fraction, you're going to need someone out there who knows how you think." Vale almost smiled, though the weight in his chest never lifted. "Then bring them back alive." The ambush was set in the Proxima line, a narrow corridor of jump points linking 3 human colonies. It was the perfect place to strike, the foreigners would have to pass through, and there would be no easy escape route once the trap was sprung. For 2 tense days, Vale's fleet lay in wait, silent in the dark. Power was kept low to avoid detection, shields running on minimal output, hulls coated with radar-dampening films. The stars hung motionless, as if holding their breath. Then the enemy arrived. At first, only a handful of ships emerged from the jump point, scouts, small and fast. Then came the main force, a wedge of alien warships, twice the number Vale had faced at Helios 3. Signal from the vanguard pickets, Lyra reported from the forward screen. "They've spotted us." "Orders, Admiral." Vale's jaw tightened. "Orders?" He turned to his crew, voice like iron. "We've waited long enough. All ships, power up and engage. Strike with everything we have." The trap snapped shut. Human dreadnoughts lit their drives, lancing the void with fire. Batteries roared, launching storms of plasma bolts and mass driver slugs into the enemy formation. Fighters screamed from the launch bays, their engines flaring blue as they dove toward the alien swarm. The opening salvo tore through the first wave of enemy ships, shredding their shields before they could react. But the foreigners recovered with terrifying speed, scattering and returning fire in a hail of energy beams that sliced through space like scythes. A destroyer exploded to starboard, its reactor going critical in a silent blossom of white light. Vale barely flinched. "Hold formation," he barked. "Keep the pressure on their center, don't let them regroup." The battle raged across the void, a storm of light and death. Lyra's strike wing punched deep into enemy lines, harrying their escorts and forcing them into disarray. Vale seized the opening, ordering the Sovereign's Reach to advance and fire its spinal cannon. The beam cut a swath through the enemy's core ships, ripping apart their command vessel in a single shot. For the first time, the foreigners faltered. "Look," Lyra's voice came through the comms, breathless with adrenaline. "They're pulling back." Sure enough, the alien formation was breaking. Their ships turned and dove for the jump point, retreating under withering fire from the human fleet. Vale's fists clenched as he watched them vanish. It was not the total annihilation he had hoped for, but it was a victory. In the aftermath, the battlefield was silent save for the chatter of rescue craft and repair crews. Human losses had been heavy, 3 cruisers destroyed, dozens of strike craft lost, but the enemy had left behind wreckage. For the first time, humanity had something they had not had before, alien hulls, intact enough to study. Vale stood in the hangar as the largest of the captured wrecks was towed aboard. Its surface shimmered faintly, as though the ship itself were alive. "Have the science teams tear it apart," Vale said. "I want to know everything about them. Their tech, their weapons, their motives, everything. Lyra glanced at him. You think this war is just beginning? Vale's gaze was hard as steel. No. I think it's about to get worse. He turned toward the stars, where the enemy had fled. Somewhere out there, they were regrouping. Planning their next move. And Admiral Aidan Vale was determined that when they came back, humanity would be ready, not just to defend, but to strike back with a fury that would shake the galaxy. The alien wreckage changed everything. Human scientists worked day and night in hidden facilities, reverse engineering the captured technology. The results were staggering: adaptive shields, weapons that bent light itself, propulsion systems that allowed pinpoint jumps with almost no energy signature. Human engineers did what humanity had always done, they didn't just copy it. They made it better. Within months, the Imperial fleet was reborn. Starships emerged from the shipyards clad in black steel plating infused with alien energy matrices. Cannons that had once taken minutes to recharge now fired in seconds. And hidden deep in the orbital drydocks above Mars, a monster was being assembled, one that would become the symbol of humanity's wrath. The Imperial supercarrier Nemesis. 3 kilometers long. Bristling with rail batteries and plasma turrets. Capable of unleashing 1,000 strike craft in a single launch wave. It was not just a warship. It was a message. When it was ready, Admiral Vale stood on its bridge, staring out at the fleet arrayed around it. Dozens of battleships and cruisers, hundreds of escorts, carriers, and troop transports. Humanity had not gathered such force since the founding of the Empire. This was no longer a defense fleet. This was an invasion armada. The enemy's home space lay beyond the dark spiral, a chaotic region of folded hyperspace where few dared to travel. But Vale's navigators had pieced together the jump data from captured alien systems, mapping a safe corridor through the storm. As the fleet approached the final jump point, silence fell across every deck. Vale stood at the center of the command platform, his voice carrying across the bridge. "This is the line we do not cross lightly," he said. "Beyond this point lies their territory, the heart of the enemy that has burned our colonies and slaughtered our people. Today, we carry the fire back to them. We will show them what it means to provoke humanity. We will end this war." No one cheered. They didn't need to. The weight in the air was heavier than words. Jump. The fleet emerged into a star system bathed in pale red light. What they saw there stole the breath from every human throat. The enemy homeworld was a fortress. Dozens of orbital platforms ringed the planet like a steel halo. Shipyards stretched across the void, birthing fresh warships even as human vessels translated into real space. And at the system's heart, a massive alien capital ship, larger than anything humanity had ever faced, turned to meet them. The Forigners had been waiting. Multiple contacts. Lyra shouted over the comms. "They knew we were coming." Vale's lips curled into a grim smile. "Good. Saves us the trouble of hunting them down." The Battle of the Red Sun began with a thunderclap. The Nemesis unleashed its first launch wave, a storm of fighters that streaked toward the orbital ring. Alien defense batteries opened fire, the void turning into a storm of tracer fire and plasma beams. Vale's voice was calm, steady, carrying over the chaos. "Push through their perimeter. Destroy their yards first, they must not replace what we destroy today." Human battleships surged forward, their heavy guns blazing. The first orbital station went up in a fireball, fragments tumbling toward the planet below. Alien warships screamed into the fight, but this time humanity was ready. Vale had learned their tactics, adapted to their maneuvers. "Bring the flanking wings around," he ordered. "Cut off their reinforcements." Lyra's squadrons dove through the melee, using new adaptive shields to slip past enemy fire and strike at their engines. Alien ships detonated in rapid succession, each loss breaking their once perfect formation. But the battle was not without cost. The alien capital ship moved like a predator among prey, its main weapon a beam that carved through space with unstoppable precision. A human cruiser was bisected in an instant, then another. Vale turned toward the gunnery officer. Spinal cannon, maximum charge. Target that ship. The Nemesis shuddered as power was diverted to its main gun. The beam fired. It was like a spear of a newborn star tearing through the void, striking the alien flagship head-on. Its shields flared, cracked, then failed. The blast punched through its core, tearing the vessel apart in a silent explosion that lit the sky like dawn. A cheer erupted across every human ship. Enemy flagship destroyed. Lyra reported, exhilaration in her voice. But Vale's expression was grim. Then there is no one left to call a retreat. What followed was slaughter. With their command structure gone, the alien fleet broke into disarray. The Nemesis pressed the attack, raining fire on their shipyards until nothing remained but drifting debris. Strike wings disabled the last of the orbital guns, leaving the enemy homeworld exposed. Vale stared at the planet below. Target their primary command centers, he said quietly. We end this here. Minutes later, kinetic bombardment rained from orbit, striking military targets with surgical precision. One by one, the enemy's planetary defenses went silent. At last, the transmission came. A face appeared on the comm screen, alien, scarred, its features strange yet unmistakably desperate. The translator rendered its words into human speech. We yield, it said. No more war. Vale's shoulders relaxed, just slightly. Then live, he said. But understand this, if you ever strike at humanity again, there will be no homeworld left for you to surrender from. The transmission ended. Weeks later, the fleet returned to human space. The war was over. Across the Empire, bells rang and celebrations filled the streets. Humanity had not only survived, it had triumphed. From the bridge of the Nemesis, Vale looked out at the stars. They no longer seemed so empty. Lyra joined him, her armor scuffed and scarred from the campaign. Do you think it's really over? She asked. Vale was silent for a long moment. No, he said at last. It will never be over. Not really. But they know what we are now. And the galaxy will not forget. The Nemesis turned slowly, its massive silhouette framed against the light of a distant sun. Humanity had built an empire no one expected. And now, it had carved its place into the stars with fire and steel.